Hey there, everyone. Today I will be reviewing the novel Beyond the Deepwoods by Chris Riddell and Paul Stewart. They're both the authors, and Chris Riddell is the illustrator of the novel. A little light backstory: it was first published in England in 1998 and was first published in America in 2003-2004, with the first three books, the Twig trilogy, already released. Beyond the Deepwoods is the first part of the Twig trilogy, and the first part in a three-trilogy series that follows Cloudwolf, Twig, and Rook. We'll get to those books once I've reread them. A little bit of backstory of Chris Riddell and Paul Stewart. They are British writers, as I said, since they were published in England. And when I first learned of them, I learned of the American covers of the books while living in Germany, but I had already gone out and bought the British versions with the original British covers, so I didn't realize that there was a difference between the two, so I bought the American ones and kept the British. So I've been able to keep up with the series when it came out, before it came to America, because I could go to a bookstore and read them. I read them all when they first started coming out when I moved to Europe in 2003, but the series is now concluded, but they're working on their fourth trilogy, which is a continuation of their largest novel called The Immortals, which I'm really excited to reread and just talk to you guys about. Alright, so The Edge Chronicles Beyond the Deepwoods. So we're met with this character named Twig, who looks like a human with elfish ears. All humans have pointed elfish ears, but he's different from his family. He lives in the Deepwoods, which is this large conglomeration of woods on the edge. Now, the edge is a giant arrowhead-shaped floating rock surrounded by swirling mists and skies. Within this world, there are the Deepwoods, where Twig is from. There is the Twilight Woods, which is a dangerous place that all those who walk into it are captured by the beauty and wander into eternity. There's the Mire, which is this large, vast desertous bog that separates the Deepwoods from Undertown, where goblins, termagant trogs, slaughterers, knock goblins, all kinds of beings live in a city almost. And then there's the floating rock of Sanctifrax. It is where the High Academy of Cloud Studies and Sky Studies essentially are. And the sky is filled with sky pirates. They power their ships by rocks in the center of a ship. So imagine like just a nice wooden boat, and where the center would be, there's a giant metal cage that has a giant rock in it, and there's a stone pilot that heats and cools the rock. As it cools, it rises. As it heats, it sinks. So it's counterintuitive to what we know in science is heat rises and coolness sinks. Anyway, getting back to the actual story, I probably should have put that first part before getting into the story. So, Twig. He's a human boy who is 13 years old, and he lives among the wood trolls, a happy, brown, fur-colored people, and he doesn't fit into this society. He's constantly beat up. His only friend turns on him the one time he does the only thing wood trolls do not do. They never leave the path. But that's Twig's story. A light, in-depth part of it, a light in-depth. Wow, perfect. I'm doing good. I probably won't edit this video, so this is going to be a train wreck. But a sky pirate by the name of Cloudwolf comes to the wood troll settlement because they trade lumber for foods. They're a non-foraging people. And Cloudwolf sees this kid, Twig, and realizes he's human and tries to get him to come aboard their ship. His father says no. Twig's father, the wood troll, says no, and they go back home, but then they realize that the sky pirates are going to come back to try to take him because he's human. And so they send him to his aunt for safety, keep him there for a few weeks, few days, and then he can come back and life can resume as it always is. He can be a wood troll, even though he's not a wood troll. And so after tearful goodbye to his mother, he starts heading to his aunt's house. But along the way, he starts noticing the wonders and the beauties of the Deepwoods, and it is beautifully illustrated. Chris Riddell is one of the in my opinion, one of the best illustrators, because he mixes style sort of like Hans Christensen, if you know his work. He was a mid-70s to early 90s illustrator, and I grew up with his novel, with his book with all of his pictures in my house. But anyway, back to the story. So Twig walks down the path, sees how beautiful the world is around him, and he does the one thing wood trolls don't do. And he's strayed from the path. He leaves it and he looks at the beautiful scenery around him. He sees all the berries, all the fruits. He sees weird fuzzy animals. He sees flying birds. He sees a sky ship. He sees sky pirates. And then he realizes he stepped off the path. And so the story keeps going on, and we get into this beautiful world where we have redskin slaughterers, who the story is that they've killed so many enemies that their skin became dyed blood red, and it stayed with them. And so he meets this slaughterer who has his foot bitten by a floating worm, and what happens is when it bites you, it puts air into your body until you swell up and float off into the sky. He saves this slaughterer and goes to their village. And there he is acquitted with the second time of hearing of this legend of the Deepwoods called the Gloamgloser. Now what the Gloamgloser is this horrible creature that if you stray from the path or if you do anything wrong, if you go into the Deepwoods and you don't know what you're doing or where you're going, the Gloamgloser will distract you and lead you away and kill you, essentially. I guess we could equate it now to the Slender Man story, or Der große Mann in German lore during the Industrial Revolution. And so Twig meets the Slaughterers and leaves, but not before they give him this special skin from the Hamelhorn. Now what the Hamelhorn skin is, it looks like cowhide, but it's almost like a quill. So when you rub it one way, it's soft, but when you run up, it prickles. So it's a defensive pelt that he now wears. Then he moves from the Slaughterers and he stumbles into the ground and meets the Trogs, which is this race where women are superior to men. Men are very tiny, very skinny. They're the forced laborers, whereas the women are these big, massive, truncated women. And he becomes a pet, a non-speaking pet, because the mother of the girl that adopts him says both to her and mainly to Twig that animals that talk shouldn't live because they're going to get the wrong ideas, and so Twig is forced into silence for fear of being killed. He manages to escape during a ceremony where his master becomes termagant, and becoming termagant, you have to drink the blood from the roots of a tree called the blood oak. And what the blood oak is this massive tree with a mouth, and it uses snarls, these green vines, to catch prey and then eat them and drain them of their blood, and it turns the wood red, and it's the most sought out wood in all of the Deepwoods. And so the termagant trogs live under the blood oak. And so during the process of his master turning termagant, he manages to escape. And then from there, he meets this weird snail lady who draws a heart in the sand and puts a stick that she has in the middle and makes an incantation essentially saying, "Heart of mine, where am I supposed to go?" You let go of the stick, it falls, she follows her path. Twig does the same thing once he finds his own stick, but it manages to stay up and point towards the sky. He thinks that it's broken, yada yada yada, and then he starts to leave. There he meets a Banderbear, which is basically this massive bear. It's this beautiful, amazing creature, but it's wounded. It has a rotted tooth. So Twig gets the tooth out and saves his life, and he and the Banderbear become very good friends, and they live in the forest for a few months before one night these horrible creatures called the Wigwigs, basically tiny balls of fluff about this big, and they're orange and they look really cute, but they open their mouth and there are these vicious teeth, and what the Wigwig does is it completely encaptures its prey and just eats it to nothing. There is nothing left when they start attacking. And so Twig is separated from his Bander Bear, and he loses one of his only friend that taught him how to forage in the forest. He taught him how to survive, how to make shelter, how to know what fruit is correct to eat, places to live, the best trees to live in that won't kill him. And there are a lot of other minor run-ins that he has with creatures like the Rot Sucker or the Borbus Bobe. There are a lot of different creatures, and it's a very interesting read, and I highly suggest you reading it, but of course this is a review, so I'm not going to give you everything. But essentially, at the very end of the novel, he meets Cloud Wolf, the person that would have stolen him from the wood trolls. Their ship had crashed because their rock became far too hot due to a lightning storm. Lightning hit it, and it sunk, destroying the ship. So he helps the crew rebuild the two pieces of the ship and get the giant catch, the grate that the flying stone is in, and they connect it. They fall asleep, and he wakes up, and the crew is gone. And so he hears a voice, and he follows it. He follows it beyond the deep woods into the mist, where the trees start becoming less and less dense, and it's just rocky and muddy and disgusting. And then the next thing he knows, he's at the end of the edge, and he's staring out into the black abyss that is the nothingness, that is not the edge. You'll just sink down. No one knows what's down there. It's too dangerous to go below the edge. The winds are too tumultuous, so no one knows what's down there. And then, at the very end, the Gloam Glozer rises up from it, and you realize that he's been leading Twig the entire time. The moment he stepped off the path, the Gloam Glozer was changing shape. He was a shapeshifter, changing into all these various creatures in the places that he was living at or visiting, guiding him to the edge, into despair. And essentially the Gloam Glozer gives him the opportunity to walk over the edge, and if he does, he will turn him into a Gloam Glozer. And so Twig walks out over the edge to become this massively beautiful thing, because he just wants to fit in. He just wants to be a wood troll. He wants to have family and love and just know what it is to have someone else care for him. And as he's falling, his catterbird, his protector, this giant, beautiful bird that he happened to bear witness to when he hatched, so it's now his protector. It saves him. And he picks him up through the edge, and he soars and soars, and then it lets him go onto the ship that Cloud Wolf is pirating. And everyone is really confused that a boy just fell from the air, and then it's revealed that Cloud Wolf is Twig's father, and he abandoned him because it was either be with his mother Maris and be a family, or be a sky pirate. And he didn't want to give up being a sky pirate. And so the novel ends with his son, Twig, and Cloud Wolf flying into another storm to do whatever sky pirates do. And that's basically the rundown of the book. Now, what's really awesome about this series is it was my first step into fantasy science fiction. It's highly illustrated. The photos in there are phenomenal. In fact, I have the second book on me. I have all of the other books at my mom's house, but she lives halfway across the state, so I won't be getting those anytime soon. But the art, like, this is just the, can you even see that? Yeah, this is the map of the edge. This is the world that they live in. This is the Deepwoods, all in this area. This is where Twig spends the entirety of the first book. And that's just a few of the illustrations that, or that's one illustration, not a few, but like, here's Twig himself. Yeah, where the hell am I? I think you can see that. There's Twig. It just, the artistry is phenomenal. It's a very easy read, especially being an adult. As a child, I found it difficult because I didn't like to read. But reading it now, I read through Beyond the Deep Woods in about 2.5, 3 hours, and I was taking my time with it. Not a lot of suggestive language. There's not really cursing. The only curses that they have is like "Sky damn you" or "I curse the sky." There's forms of religions, and you can see the hierarchy within different races and religions. But I think it's also a very good social narrative on how we determine race. Like, there are multiple forms of goblins. There's hammerheads, knock goblins, gnarl goblins, there's tumor goblins, basically all these different forms. And within that group of that society, there are racial barriers. If you're a hammerhead, you're set. You're the best. If you're a knock goblin, you are the lowest of the goblin chain. And you're abused and put into slavery, and that's dealt with a lot more in the third book, so when we get there, we'll deal with all of the parallels. Right now, the first book is just a step into this beautiful world, so there's not a lot of social commentary. But I want to touch up on that, or else this would be a very boring review, in my opinion. So there's the dealing with race, and there's a lot of race wars within it of which species should be able to learn at the High Academy in Sanctifrax, because it's mostly humans. There are slaughterers, there are trolls, there are trogs, but for the most part it's human, and the latter part of the Twig series really deals with that. But right now, like I said, this is just the introduction into the world. It's seeing what a new fantasy world is, and one thing that's fantastic about the way they write is Chris Riddell and Paul Stewart, when they name a species, if it's not going to be directly needed within that moment of naming it, they don't really talk too much about it. So with the slaughterers, they'll talk about it right there. With the knock goblins, when you go to that colony, they explain the knock goblins, and they kind of mention that there are other ones, but they're not important to the story, so they're not going to go into the detail on that until they are relevant to the story. So it's fantastic. They create this amazing world, but they don't spend the first book just explaining everything. They explain it as it becomes important and relevant, which I think is very good for novels to do, because if I pick up a new series, like right now I'm also reading Star Wars. When I read a Star Wars novel and it introduces a new species, I like that it will give a light description of what they look like, and then lightly refer to it every now and then. What I dislike is there are a few novelists in the sci-fi realm. I can't name doesn't come to my mind right now, but instead of just describing new species as they come, they'll spend a chapter just describing every species that is known to the world. And so, for some people, that's effective. Writing out species and places and guns and weapons and all of that just in one chapter at the very beginning, and you have that basis of knowledge that you can keep going back to. But for me personally, I like being introduced to a character or an idea of a character and then wondering what it is, and once it becomes relevant, then having it. Then I can go back and appreciate the writing. I also think that it shows that there's growth for these writers, because they haven't fully fleshed out the world, but they've fleshed out enough that they can create their own socio-economic pyramid, essentially, their own ecosystem. And so it's very interesting. Really what this story deals with is a coming of age, questioning yourself, and am I happy fitting in where I am because I was born here, because I grew up here? Is this what's meant for me? Or is there something that I haven't thought of that's right out the door that I have yet to even imagine, because I'm told I have to constantly look forward, I have to constantly look for squares, but my mind is drawn to circles. And so it's a very good look at being a young adult, not necessarily a young man, even though we see it through a young man, but just being a young adult, finding these differences and these different flavors in our lives and things we want to experiment with, and just see where life takes us. And especially now, reading it at 22, I think it's still relevant to self-identification, because it deals with being alone, it deals with having no friends, having loss of family, wanting to fit in, doing anything to fit in, but then being okay with what you have and just bringing that to the table. And so I think that that's a fantastic way that Chris Riddell and Paul Stewart write about it. I'll leave a link to the Amazon book of it. It has the full synopsis, in the description. I'll leave a link for that. Also tag their website. They have a website where you can explore all of the Deepwoods, but spoiler, it will have all 10 books, the 3 trilogies, the Immortals, and they have a few journals, which go into minor characters. I'll post about that later when I read it. I didn't even know about that until about a week ago. So yeah, I'll have that in the description. I will be reading the second book, which I showed you photos from, Storm Chaser, which is the second book in the Twig trilogy and the second book in the series altogether. I'll be reading that in the next week or so. So hopefully that'll be better organized than this, because I'll actually have the book physically on me, and I read the Deepwoods about a week ago. I've had the books for about a month, so I'm getting back into it. And that's all I have to say about that. Alright, well, thank you for sticking around for 20 minutes. Hopefully, next time I will actually be able to edit more. I might edit a little bit on this, but just be more concise and have something written out, because this is all extemporaneous speech. So next time I'll actually have it more planned, because I just wanted to put a video up. But thank you for listening, and I hope to see you guys soon. Take care.